Nicole Kidman, the luminous rose of Hollywood, has never been just a movie star. She became a symbol of beauty so delicate and profound that every glance toward her seemed to dissolve into awe. She doesn't merely act, she disappears into her roles until fiction and reality blur. From the dazzling passion of Moulin Rouge to the aching stillness of the hours, Nicole carved her legacy into cinema like an engraving on glass, fragile, permanent, unforgettable. She gave voice to the overlooked, carried the weight of broken spirits, and left echoes in audiences long after the curtain fell. Awards came, applause followed, but no accolade has ever pierced deep enough to reveal the quiet heaviness behind her eyes. Nicole Kidman is not only elegant and accomplished, she is vulnerable, unyielding, and carries a tenderness that makes the world itself feel too harsh to hold her. And now, at 58, while the world only sees the radiant smile on red carpets beside Keith Urban, the man often called her final refuge, Nicole Kidman walks silently through one of the most shadowed chapters of her life. The darkness she once escaped in roles is no longer in the past. It seeps into her present, quietly eroding what she has built. If her performances have ever moved you, if her gaze ever lingered in your memory, pause with respect. Because sometimes, the brightest souls fracture most deeply beneath the very light they gave to others. Before the world worshipped her as Hollywood royalty, before the Oscars, before the marriage to Keith Urban painted her as untouchable, Nicole was simply a fragile child, a girl who never quite found her place in a world too loud for her whisper. She entered the world not with fanfare, but with silence, born in Honolulu, Hawaii, on June 20th, 1967. Her father, Anthony, chased knowledge in psychology. Her mother, Janelle, trained to heal. Soon, the Kidmans returned to Sydney, where their home brimmed with books and thoughtfulness. But inside, Nicole lived a storm, shyness that paralyzed her, a stutter that strangled her voice, silences that left her invisible. She froze in classrooms, words suffocating before they reached her lips. Her parents loved her dearly, but even love cannot untangle the ache of feeling misplaced in one's own skin. Her first escape came not in words, but in movement. At 3 years old, she discovered ballet. Dance became her language when speech failed. The music did not judge her. The mirror did not mock her. Within the rhythm, she floated weightless, carving out fleeting moments of peace. Yet at school, her red curls, pale skin, and awkward height drew ridicule. She moved like a ghost, slipping past the laughter of others, protecting herself with silence. But in that silence, empathy bloomed, a rare, fierce gift to see pain where others only saw noise. Her parents recognized the spark within her and enrolled her at the Australian Theatre for Young People. For Nicole, it was no mere school, it was sanctuary. At 14, she stepped into her first role in Bush Christmas, and for the first time, she felt her own voice carried through art. By 16, she abandoned traditional education, not in rebellion, but in survival. Acting wasn't a dream. It was her lifeline. Each role freed pieces of herself too fragile to survive in the open. Every tear shed on stage was not fiction. It was the unspoken grief of the girl who could never find words. Her silence became her authenticity. What others saw as strangeness, Nicole transformed into truth. From BMX bandits to dead calm, she glided into cinema with quiet ferocity, wielding stillness as power. Days of Thunder, 1990, flung her into stardom and into the arms of Tom Cruise. But she resisted being a shadow. She demanded her own space, her own light. To Die For, 1995, cemented her brilliance. Her performance as Suzanne Stone was chilling, electric, a declaration that she was not merely beautiful, she was formidable. Her Golden Globe was not just an award, it was proof. Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, 1999, tested her in ways most would retreat from, but she leaned in with raw honesty. The Others, 2001, showcased her command of silence. Moulin Rouge, reimagined. Her as Satine, aching, luminous, unforgettable, earning her first Oscar nomination. But it was The Hours 2002 that etched her into history. Her Virginia Woolf haunting and fragile, her performance a mirror of hidden wounds. The Oscar followed, but more than that, reverence. From Dogville and Birth to Cold Mountain, The Interpreter, and Australia she pushed further, bearing humanity's fractures. Rabbit Hole 2010 was a raw dissection of grief. Big Little Lies shattered silence around domestic abuse, gifting her both an Emmy and Golden Globe. Whether in Lion, Bombshell, or Aquaman, Nicole balanced elegance with fire, always searching for truth beneath the surface. Even in recent years, she continues to astonish. Being the Ricardos 2021 revealed not imitation, but embodiment, earning her yet another Oscar nod. Special Ops, Lioness 2023 proved her strength unbroken. Expats 2024 revealed her command not only as actress, but as producer. And Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom 2025 reminded the world that artistry and spectacle can coexist. Nicole's love story with Tom Cruise was a spectacle of its own. They met on Days of Thunder and spiraled into a passion that looked like destiny. To the world, they were untouchable. To Nicole, it was lightning in her veins. She was 23, convinced she had found forever. Red carpets painted them as flawless, royalty. But in their home, shadows stretched longer. Miscarriages hollowed her heart, and adoption became a desperate anchor. Isabella in 1992, Connor in 1995. She whispered, "I could give up everything, as long as my children are happy." But beneath her smile lived a truth she dared not speak. She was vanishing. There was no betrayal, no loud scandal, just the quiet erasure of self. "I felt like I didn't exist anymore," she later admitted, her voice trembling with memory. Then, without warning, came collapse. Tom Cruise filed for divorce, sudden, merciless. One morning, she was a wife, a mother, a woman clinging to a family. By nightfall, it was gone. Her world crumbled into silence. "I knew things weren't the same," she confessed. "But I never thought he'd be the one to walk away." The tabloids called it a celebrity breakup. For Nicole, it was devastation. A heartbreak so total, it fractured her very reflection. She stared at the mirror, searching for the woman she once was, unable to find her. And yet, through fire, through silence, through scars unseen, she endured. Not loudly, not with defiance, but with quiet resilience, carrying her brokenness as art, shaping her pain into stories that continue to pierce the world. She carried heartbreak without vengeance. She met loss without bitterness. Instead, Nicole Kidman chose strength, the kind forged in the furnace of sorrow, chosen deliberately, again and again, to rise above despair. Every silent fracture, every invisible wound became part of her armor. Every role, every step forward was not simply art, it was reclamation. Nicole did not merely endure heartbreak, she transmuted it. Each scar became a note in her craft, every tear a current in the luminous force that continues to captivate hearts and echo in cinema's memory. The collapse of her marriage arrived not as spectacle, but as silence, hidden in the sterile ink of legal papers and the flash of tabloid headlines. The true devastation lived in the quiet corners of her life, in the lullabies whispered to Isabella and Connor, in the tiny hands she once clung to as if they might tether her to hope. Adoption had been her salvation, her anchor through miscarriages and grief, and those children had been her light. Yet as they grew, their path diverged into a world she could not follow, a world shaped by faith, ritual, and devotion to Scientology. There were no slammed doors, no explosive partings, only distance, a slow erosion until love had nowhere left to land. Nicole respected their choice, her voice calm, steady. But beneath that composure swirled an ocean of grief no camera could capture. It was not only a husband she lost. It was a family she had built with every fragile, bleeding piece of herself, and still she endured, quietly, with grace. Years later, when her spirit felt like shattered glass too fragile to hold, Keith Urban entered her life, not as a savior, not as a storybook prince, but as another survivor. Together, they were not writing perfection. They were piecing together what was left. Yet peace came at a cost. Keith's struggle with addiction tested their vows almost as soon as they were spoken. Nicole became not only his wife, but his sentinel. She stayed through sleepless nights and unraveling days, holding him steady when hope was nothing more than a thread. She did not fight with fury, she fought with presence. Her love was not a performance, it was endurance. And in that endurance they rebuilt, heartbeat by heartbeat. Still, beneath her strength lived a longing that consumed her, a yearning to be a mother again. Years of treatments ended in disappointment. Each failure left its scar. And then a miracle. Sunday Rose, born in 2008. Holding her daughter against her chest, Nicole felt something she had long been denied, chosen, whole, alive. Yet even in joy, fear crept in. Her body betrayed her, unable to nurse. "What's happening to me?" she cried, terrified of failing the very child she had prayed for. But love does not vanish with imperfection, it endures. And in 2010, through surrogacy, another miracle came, Faith Margaret. Nicole called her a miracle from another woman, reframing motherhood itself. Love, she showed the world, is not defined by biology, but by belonging. And just as her family began to root itself in fragile peace, life's storms returned. In 2014, her father, her anchor, the steady presence who first believed in her, died suddenly. A silence fell that applause could not fill. Nearly a decade later, in 2023, her mother too was gone, leaving Nicole to walk without the hands that had once guided her. "I feel empty," she admitted softly. "There's no one left to call home." Some wounds do not heal. They simply learn to stay quiet. But even in grief, Nicole chose resilience. Not the loud, heroic kind, the quiet kind, the choice to keep breathing, to keep creating, to keep loving despite the ache. That is what sets her apart. Not only the awards, 6 Golden Globes, 2 Emmys, an Oscar, the first Australian woman to receive the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award. Not the wealth, not the glamour. What endures is her refusal to collapse, her transformation of pain into story, silence into voice, fragility into strength. She has given us Virginia Woolf unraveling in the hours, a performance that bled her own wounds onto the screen. She gave us Celeste in Big Little Lies, not as fiction, but as a raw, unflinching conversation about abuse. In Lion, she embodied an adoptive mother's grief and love, a role she admitted was her most personal because every frame reawakened her own scars, and beyond the screen, she has turned her influence into action, serving as a UN Women Goodwill Ambassador since 2006, pledging to elevate female filmmakers, creating Blossom Films as a refuge for women's voices. In 2025, Cannes honored her with the Women in Motion Award, not for her beauty or fame, but for her courage to use both as tools for others. Now at 58, Nicole no longer chases red carpets or measures herself in applause. Happiness, for her, is Keith's guitar strumming in the kitchen, her daughter's laughter drifting through the Tennessee air, long walks on quiet land in Australia. Her homes are not trophies of wealth, but sanctuaries of memory. Her fortune is not in millions earned, but in moments chosen. And still, she carries tenderness for the children who walked their own paths, apart from her. "They chose their way," she has said softly. "I respect that, and I love them. That doesn't change." Nicole Kidman's story is not one of untouchable perfection. It is one of survival, of a woman who faced loss after loss and still stood. A woman who turned heartbreak into art and silence into strength. She is not admired because she glitters. She is loved because she endures. Because she shows us that beauty is not in what we avoid, but in what we survive. And so, if her work has ever touched you, if a pause, a trembling gaze, or a single tear on screen ever reached you, then that was no accident. It was Nicole offering you a piece of herself, proof that some souls heal the world simply by surviving it. Nicole Kidman is one of them. Not just a star, but a living testament. That light is born not from the stage, but from scars transformed into grace.